This is the Conservative American Message, hosted by the one and only Cam Lau. It is Monday, August 21st, 2023, and you can join me every week for the greatest political commentary known to man. President Calvin Coolidge said, "Ultimately, property rights and personal rights are the same thing." Wouldn't it be nice to have a president like Coolidge again? One who can actually speak a complete sentence like that? As bad as Joe Biden is at speaking, he is even worse at addressing crises when they pop up across the nation. Just like every other major accident or natural disaster, the president has ignored his people when they needed him most. While he sends our tax dollars overseas to other countries, he gives no aid to the people in Hawaii after the devastating fires in Maui. Here's what the locals had to say about it.
And right now, the Maui community is helping the Maui community. And it's really affecting me because where's the president? He decides to come here this week, to come here next week. I mean, like, aren't we Americans too? Like, we're part of the United States, but why are we getting put in the back pocket? Why are we being ignored?
If they can freaking take care of Ukraine, yeah, $40 billion go to Ukraine. Thing coming to us, what the tax-paying money for 60 years don't mean shit. But they will take care of Ukraine, $40 billion.
So why aren't you taking care of what you claim to be in charge of, rather than sending out all these funds and whatever else you guys are sending to Ukraine or anywhere? Take care of here first. You know, I don't see why any president wouldn't step up and take care of what's part of their, territory. I think it's a stupid move on his part. Biden, yeah, he's an idiot. Sorry. No, not sorry.
Unfortunately, Biden does not listen to their cries for help. He can't help anyone because he is the most embarrassing excuse of a leader America has ever seen. We have regularly discussed the dangers of the porn industry. In this day and age, after the sexual revolution and subsequent mini-revolutions that have completely perverted all things gender and sexuality, one would really think that pornography would just reign victorious over all other industry. But surprisingly, in many states, porn is actually under attack by state legislatures. Laws in multiple states have been passed in recent months to require porn sites to use age verification to ensure no person under the age of 18 is viewing that kind of content. The push for such regulation didn't come from some evangelical Christian organization or some conservative lobbyist group. It was actually the moral convictions of lawmakers in these states. While laws have been passed in many states that do nothing more than condemn these websites, this particular law actually enforces regulation on them. The response of these sites was to pull out of those states entirely, making sites like Pornhub completely inaccessible to citizens in those states. Some people are pointing to Billie Eilish as the one who actually brought this all about when she opened up about her porn addiction that she says began at age 11. And if Billie Eilish is truly the feminist she claims to be, then being against porn is one of the best ways to advocate for women. I really think we're getting closer to this point where the feminists are realizing that their values align much closer with the more conservative and people on the right than those wackos on the other side. Whether it be porn, sex work, transgenderism, the feminist narrative just doesn't mesh with these radical ideas. True feminism that aims to bring about equality will have no choice but to separate from the liberal cesspool and come over to the right. As the amount of people listening to this podcast continues to rise, our following has kind of plateaued. So I need you, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you listen to this, please follow us so that you're always updated on what we're doing. And also follow us on social media. We're available on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Truth Social, everything. And then I would really appreciate it, guys, if you could share this episode so that you can show all your friends that you listen to the Conservative American Message. Summit Carbon Solutions has become an infamous name to landowners throughout the Midwest. Their company is the premier name in carbon sequestration. Their mission? To create carbon credits and reduce the so-called pollution from ethanol plants across the Midwest with a pipeline. There's a lot to talk about here, but first of all, carbon credits. Carbon credits are sort of like stocks. So if a company, or farmer for that matter, can prove that they have reduced their carbon footprint through some change in method or process, they can then receive carbon credits, which can be sold to other companies, like in California, where they have more strict limits on the amount of pollution allowed by certain industry. So basically what it comes down to is a farmer in the Midwest can opt to participate in some farming practice which reduces their output of carbon, and then a coal plant across the country can purchase those carbon credits from that farmer through some sort of brokerage, so the coal plant can then claim that they have that much less output of their own. It's really quite silly. For one, it is practically impossible to accurately measure how much carbon is truly being sequestered. Then enter Summit Carbon Solutions. This is where it really starts getting crazy. Their plan, like I said, is to build a massive pipeline that connects multiple ethanol plants and pump their carbon output underground. One issue with this is the fact that carbon dioxide is a natural and necessary gas that we actually need in our atmosphere. Plants convert carbon dioxide to oxygen the same way that humans do the reverse. Pulling carbon out of the air that really should be there does not have a positive impact on the environment. In fact, some studies have shown that crops will suffer a yield loss because of the lack of carbon. But before we can even debate whether or not this is a good idea, environmentally, we have to talk about how much it's going to cost. An estimated $4.5 billion is being secured to complete this project. Where does this money come from? Is it that large of a market for carbon sequestration? No way. This is a combination of government grants and some huge players who have an interest in this. One of them, Bill Gates, a climate nut who owns 269,000 acres of American farmland, is heavily invested in the company's success. But to me, an even greater concern is Chinese involvement, as they now own 380,000 acres of U.S. farmland. It's a scary thing because in order to span the 2,100 miles with this pipeline, they have to sign a lot of easement agreements with landowners along the way. So the Chinese government would then be party to easements on a great number of acres in this country. The landowners agreeing to this pipeline have practically been the only thing slowing the process for Summit Carbon. That's why the company is trying to go down the eminent domain route to force everyone to comply. Eminent domain is when the government comes in and forces you to give up your land, which happens often with roads, natural gas pipelines, and other situations where the land actually is used for the common good of the people, as is allowed in the Constitution. But allowing them to use this process would be very foolish for a carbon pipeline that does nothing for the good of anybody but those invested in it. There's growing concern among communities in the vicinity of the proposed pipeline as more information is spread about the dangers not only politically, but purely from a safety standpoint. At its greatest diameter, this pipeline reaches 24 inches and over 2,000 psi. That is insanity. They are running this thing through towns in some cases, and very close to some people's acreages along the way. There are existing carbon pipelines in some places that have had devastating effects for those around it when it bursts. A carbon pipeline makes no sense. It does virtually nothing for the environment, it gives more power to our political enemies, it questions the authority of property rights in this country, and it is just stupid and dangerous. This is not a partisan issue. Democrats have actually come out all over against this. But many of your legislators, your governors, your county supervisors, and other elected officials are supporting this lunacy. And a lot of them are Republicans. So step up and take a stand against this, rather than throwing your arms up and believing, well, they have too much power, this big corporation, the government. Our right to own property is at stake here, guys. Well, that's all I have time for. Were you offended by this podcast? Good. Thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate you all. Have a great week and stay conservative.